What's up, family? If it's your first time checking out the show, let me know what city, what state you're coming in from. If you're outside of the U.S., let me know what country you represent. Throw up your flag. Family, I need you to smash up the likes, smash up the likes, smash up the likes. Also, if you have not done so already on YouTube, after you subscribe, there's a little bell next to your subscribe button. Go ahead and click that thing right now so you can get your notifications each time I drop a new video like this. That way you'll be in the loop. I let a few hundred of y'all come in, then I'm going in. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to give some very quick shout outs to the early birds, starting with dun, dun, dun. Pookie, what up? Joy B, good morning. Is that Talia Matthews, T. McGee, is that Tricia, Tanea, right, Tanea, Tricia, Tanea, or Trisha, is that Trisha? No, that's not Trisha. Trisha, well, it could be, I don't know, you know how we be spelling them names sometimes, man. Okay, so what's up, China Carter? What it do? Y'all show China some love, holding it down on the moderation side, keeping the trolls at bay. A lot of trolls lately, man. A lot of trolls over the last few weeks in the chat. But never mind that. Fam, we got a very explosive show for you today. So today I want to talk about something in the Nolan Wells case that has bothered me from the actual very beginning. The sheriff's position, the sheriff's early position. Because when Nolan Wells was found dead after going to Horn Island with friends, Jackson County Sheriff John Leadbetter publicly said investigators did not suspect foul play. Y'all remember that? Yeah, think about it. Think about that, fam. A young man goes missing on an island with friends. The friends come back. Nolan doesn't. His phone comes back. His keys come back. Nolan's body is eventually found, and before the public has seen an autopsy, before all of the witnesses had been fully examined, before all of the electronic evidence had been analyzed, before the investigators had run its course, before the investigation had run its course, we're already hearing foul play isn't suspected. And we're hearing it from the sheriff. We'll get into that, man. We'll get into that. We're hearing foul play isn't suspected. But then something happened, fam. Something happened. The investigation kept going. See, oftentimes in these Mississippi's and other municipalities, when the sheriff say no foul play, case closed. People look the other way. But this investigation, this is the investigation that would not go away. Not because they started it, because we started it. Witnesses kept getting interviewed. Tips kept coming in. Evidence kept being collected. Content creators continue to content create. The district attorney got involved. The case was headed to a grand jury. And suddenly, we're hearing something very different. This is an active investigation. So today, I'm asking a very simple question. What changed? Because if you had enough evidence at the beginning to tell the public you didn't suspect foul play, what have you been investigating ever since? And understand something, family. I'm not saying that the sheriff killed Nolan. However, there have been many cases in Mississippi's history where the sheriff was involved in killing his own citizens or visitors. Yeah, yeah. Long time they've been doing this, man. A long time. So I'm not saying that the sheriff covered up Nolan's death. I'm not saying Nolan was murdered. Now, I have said Nolan was murdered, but not right now. I'm not saying, just for the sake of argument, I'm not saying Nolan was murdered. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying something much simpler. I believe the public deserves to know why authorities appeared so comfortable with an accidental explanation before the investigation had produced all the answers. That's it. See, that's what we're talking about today. So let's get into it. I got some notes here, fam. I had to write down because I want to make sure I do not miss on this one. I got to make sure. I want to make sure I don't miss on this one. So let me do this right quick. Get this in here right quick. Get this out the way. Here we go. So let's go to the beginning. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He went to Horn Island on the 4th of July. He didn't come home. His body was recovered on July 6th. And shortly afterwards, the public starts hearing the investigation don't suspect foul play, that the investigators don't suspect foul play. Now, let me tell you why this bothers me, fam. How do you know? I'm serious. How do you know? Not what do you believe? Not what somebody told you. Not what seems most likely. What did you know at that point? Because an investigation is something that is supposed to answer questions. It's not supposed to begin with the answer and then work its way backwards. An investigation is supposed to answer questions. If you haven't completed an autopsy, how are you comfortable suggesting that it didn't happen? If you haven't analyzed every phone, how do you know? If you haven't interviewed every relevant witness, how do you know? If you haven't reconstructed Nolan's final hours, how do you know? If you haven't examined every photograph and video, how do you know? If you haven't compared everybody's statements against objective evidence, how do you know? See, that's my problem, family. The issue isn't whether the sheriff ultimately turns out to have been right. Maybe Nolan's death ultimately turns out to have been a tragic accident. I doubt it, but maybe. If that's what the evidence proves, that's what the evidence proves. But that's not the point. The point is, how did you arrive at that conclusion so damn fast? That's what I want to know. See, as soon as he said it, man, I was like, I don't trust him. Well, to be honest, completely transparent, as soon as I heard it was Mississippi, I didn't trust him. But then I heard what he said, and I doubled down on my mistrust, man. I do not trust him at all. But check this out, fam. Nolan's mother has made an even stronger allegation. She told Reuters that less than an hour after her son's body was recovered, Sheriff John Leadbetter, this dude right here, told her he believed Nolan's death was accidental and that he did not see foul play. Just an hour after his body was recovered. That means that dude ain't examined nobody. He hadn't read any official report. He just said, no foul play. Less than an hour, fam. If Christine Wansley's account is accurate, I need somebody to explain that to me. What evidence existed in the first hour that was so persuasive? That's what I need to know. Had the autopsy been performed? Nope. Had the toxicology report come back? Nope. Had every witness been interviewed? Nope. Had every digital device been analyzed? Nope. Had investigators reconstructed every moment of Nolan Wells' last moments on Horn Island? Nope. So what exactly gave authorities that level of confidence? That's what I want to know. It's not an accusation, just a question. What gave them that level of confidence? See, and that's a damn important question right there. See, they don't like it when we ask questions. They want us to shut up and take it. Then the language starts to change, right? Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because listen to what happens next, fam. Listen to what happens next. The language changes. By July 8th, Sheriff Leadbetter was publicly describing this as a very active investigation. Investigators were allegedly collecting evidence. They were interviewing witnesses. They were asking people with firsthand information to come forward. Then, about a week after that, about a week after Nolan's body was found, Leadbetter said the investigation remained active and ongoing, and that's what brings us to today. Active and ongoing. Now, hold on, fam. If you're receiving valuable new information, if you're interviewing witnesses, if you're collecting evidence, if you're communicating with other agencies, then doesn't that mean there were things you didn't know when you made the original statement? Right or wrong, fam? See, I'm just asking like rudimentary questions. It's just rudimentary questions. Ain't nothing big at all. Just rudimentary questions. You know, this is what I would be called a scoop. A scoop, you know, like when you first show up on first day of detective work, you know, you really ain't really no real detective. You're more like a little scoop, you know, they don't really take you too seriously. So I'm just a little scoop, just asking preliminary questions, man. These are preliminary questions. This ain't no big thing right here, right? But that's the question, because you can't have it both ways, family. You can't tell me there's nothing here that makes you suspect foul play and then spend weeks trying to determine what happened. Well, technically he could, but investigators develop preliminary theories all the time. So, yeah. But anyway, but there is a difference. Most of us aren't the sheriff, right? Most of us aren't the sheriff. When the sheriff speaks, his words carry institutional weight. When the sheriff says he doesn't suspect foul play people here, nothing criminal happened. Because that's the sheriff. He's investigating. That's his job. We trust the sheriff to tell us what happened. We're just laymen. We don't know. We're bus drivers, cooks, and teachers, and lawyers, and we're nurses, and doctors, and janitors, and entrepreneurs. We don't know this type of stuff. We're stay-at-home moms. We're retired veterans. We don't know. This is what he does. This is his job. So when he tells us no foul play, then we kind of run with the narrative. Even if that's not technically what he said, that statement establishes a narrative. Once you establish a narrative, everything that follows risks being viewed through the same narrative, through the same lens. That's why investigators have to be very careful about premature conclusions. He should know that. I shouldn't have to tell him that. I shouldn't have to say this type of stuff. They should already know this. Confirmation bias is real, fam. It's real. If I walk into a room believing somebody drowned accidentally, I may interpret evidence differently than somebody walking into that same room asking, "We don't know what happened. Let's find out." Right or wrong, fam? We don't know what happened. Let's find out. That's what Ben Crump been saying. That's what Al Sharpton been saying. That's what Elmore and Christine Wansley has been saying. We don't know what happened. Let's find out. That's what the content creators have been saying. That's what the journalists, the reputable ones at least, have been saying. We don't know what happened. Let's find out. This guy got some explaining to do. He got some explaining to do. We don't know what's happened. Let's find out. That's why the starting point matters. The starting point matters. The starting point is who saw him last. Look at these guys right here. All of them know something. They were the guys that he was out there on the boat with chilling. Look like a regular old picture with good friends having a blast. Nolan has no idea that he's hours away from having his life taken. And those same people that he hugged up with right there, going dark, running like roaches with the lights on from people asking them questions. He don't know. The question is, did any of them know? He's moments away. He's literally like hours away from death. And he has no idea. He has no idea if something that tragic was to happen to him, that these same guys on this boat would not provide his family with all information, any information that could possibly help him, that could possibly help them determine what happened to Nolan. He has no idea that these guys, after his demise, will go on a talk show and disparage his mother, who's simply trying to get answers, who, by the way, hasn't accused not one of them. She hasn't accused not one of them of actually killing it. She's just asking for questions. She's just asking questions and looking for answers. He has no idea that these guys are going to go and start a Give, Send, Go fundraiser and use his name to get paid and to silence people who are asking questions and who are demanding accountability. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Ooh wee, man. Now let's be fair. The sheriff did explain part of the reasoning. Authorities said people interviewed by investigators told them Nolan chose to stay on the island because he expected to get a ride back with someone else. Okay, that's the information. But information isn't necessarily proof. Somebody saying Nolan wanted to stay behind doesn't establish how Nolan died. It doesn't establish what happened after his friends left. And it doesn't automatically eliminate foul play. Those are separate questions. Let's say, for the sake of argument, Nolan absolutely did choose to stay. Okay. Then what happened afterwards? Who was Nolan with? Who saw him last? What time? Where exactly? Was he alone? Was he drinking? Did he enter the water voluntarily? Was there an altercation? Did anybody see him swimming? Did anybody see him in distress? When was the last confirmed sighting? What do the phones show? What do the GPS records show? What do the photographs show? What does the video show? That's an investigation. And here's something else. Nolan's family disputes the idea that he simply decided to stay behind. So now you have competing accounts. That's exactly when you don't want to just jump to conclusions. You see? And the sheriff was privy to those competing accounts from day one. You investigate Leadbetter. If you had Leadbetter, you would have investigated from the jump. You corroborate. You compare statements. You look for evidence. You look for independent evidence. You look for independent witnesses who ain't got a dog in the fight. Because somebody telling you something doesn't make it true. And somebody contradicting them doesn't make them a liar. I'm gonna give this side, I gotta say this side too. So somebody telling you something doesn't make it true. Somebody contradicting them doesn't make them a liar. Evidence decides. That's all everybody asking for. Let the evidence decide. And don't just because the evidence don't fit your narrative, don't just dismiss the evidence. Welcome the evidence. Then we got the independent autopsy. Oh man, the independent autopsy. And guess what? It didn't give us a clear answer. The independent pathologist listed Nolan's cause and manner of death as undetermined pending further investigation. Undetermined. That's an important word. It doesn't mean homicide. It doesn't mean accident. It means the available evidence wasn't sufficient to make the determination. That's for all of you out there saying, well, you know, even their own investigation couldn't determine what happened. The amount of slowpokes in this country, man, is absolutely astounding to me. The pathologist said non-accidental factors couldn't be ruled out. He said that. Again, that doesn't mean somebody killed Nolan. But he said non-accidental factors could not be ruled out. It does not mean somebody killed Nolan. But it damn sure doesn't sound like nobody didn't kill Nolan. It damn sure don't sound like nothing to see here. And this is where we go back to the sheriff's early confidence. If a forensic pathologist examining Nolan's body later says, I can't determine the cause and manner of death, how was law enforcement so comfortable early on saying they didn't suspect foul play? You got Robert Mitchell, the pathologist, the absolute best in the nation. Definitely way more qualified, way more educated, way more skilled than any medical examiner in the state of Mississippi's history. Because you know they don't have to do much to become an MD, ME, right? If he says it's undetermined, for now, I'm with that. I'm confident when he gets all of the body parts that he needs, assuming that they are intact, they haven't been tampered with, I'm certain the cause of death is going to be murder. It's going to be a homicide. Maybe they had information the pathologist didn't have. That's possible. If so, what was it? That's what transparency could help explain. Because right now, the public is left filling in the blanks. When authorities leave the blanks in a case this controversial, social media will fill it in every damn time. Hey, all you so-called professionals out there who are supposed to be working on this case, if y'all don't like us talking about this case and y'all don't like us filling in the blanks, fill in the blanks for us and make it public. Everybody put your hands on the table, put your cards on the table, flip them. Let's see. Everybody put your cards on the table. Everybody with a dog in the fight, everybody that's connected to this case, everybody get in one room, flip your cards. Put your cards on the table and flip them. Now let's see what the truth is. When authorities leave those spots blank in a case this controversial, social media will fill in the blanks every damn time. Some are going to be accurate, some irresponsibly, some completely falsely. Transparency isn't only about satisfying Nolan's family. Transparency protects everybody, including Nolan's friends, including investigators, including the sheriff, including me. Transparency, man. That's all we're saying. And then there's Nolan's phone. Y'all don't find it suspicious that you got Nolan is missing and his parents got to go hunt his phone down and pull up and track the phone to his friend's house instead of his friend calling the mother and say, "Hey, mom, I got Nolan's phone. Maybe it's something on there that can help us figure out what happened to Nolan, where he was or something, you know?" This is another reason I have trouble understanding the early confidence. Nolan didn't return from Horn Island, but his phone did. Now, think about that, fam. Think about how important your phone is to you. Think about that. Nolan did not return to Horn Island. That autopsy complicated everything. Yeah. And the medical examiner knew that it would complicate everything. But let's go back to the phone. Nolan's phone didn't return from Horn Island. But Nolan didn't return from Horn Island, but his phone did. Now think about how important your phone is to your family. Your location, your photographs, your videos, your messages, your calls, your social media, potential timestamps, potential communications, potential clues about your plans, potential beefs. No, it ain't nothing for a youngster or anybody to have a problem with somebody and text it, and text that person directly, or text a friend or family member and say, "Look, I got a problem with such, or such got a problem with me. Or look, I'm on this boat and I'm scared." They won't turn around. I think they're gonna try to hurt me. They're gonna try to do something to me. I ain't saying that was happening. I'm saying I ain't ruling out nothing. Nolan's phone could potentially help establish what he was thinking before he disappeared. And as of August 14th, today, reporting says that the phone still hasn't been jointly forensically analyzed because the family and district attorney have been unable to agree on the logistics, meaning that they can't figure out a good time that works for everybody. Now explain this to me. How are we this far into one of the most scrutinized death investigations in Mississippi and potentially one of the most important pieces of digital evidence still hasn't been analyzed in the manner everybody agreed upon? Forget conspiracy theories. Forget race for a second. Forget social media. Let's just talk about the basic investigation. What's on that damn phone? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But shouldn't somebody know? And if that phone ultimately confirms Nolan planned to stay on Horn Island, fine. That's evidence. If it contradicts the story, that's evidence too. That's the whole point, fam. I don't care which side that the evidence helps. I want to see the evidence examined. I want to see it examined. Okay, let me back up, fam. I lied. I do care what side it helps. I want it to help the family, but I want it to be truthful. You know, I care more about the family than I do the dudes who was with them, because I don't think they're being honest, and I think they're arrogant. I think they're self-entitled. I don't know. I don't like them. I don't like them. I'm gonna tell you straight up. I don't like them. I like the family though. Straight up, I like the family. All right, there you go. I'm gonna call a striking a ball, fam. You know, I call it like I see it. I'm gonna call it like I see it. So now we got the case going to a grand jury. And here's where this becomes harder to reconcile with that earlier public posture. The district attorney says Nolan's death will be presented to a grand jury. Now, let's be clear about something, family, because I don't want people misunderstanding this. In Mississippi, the district attorney has said deaths are, and other than natural causes and non-criminal vehicle accidents are routinely presented to the grand jury. So the fact that Nolan's case is going before a grand jury does not automatically mean prosecutors have somebody who they can point at to charge for murder. Got to make that crystal clear. If it does mean the process isn't over, the evidence is still evaluated. So, questions to consider. The grand jury may ultimately decide whether there's evidence that a crime occurred and whether anybody should be charged. So again, why the early confidence? That's the theme of the entire show. I'm not asking why they're investigating now. They should be investigating. I'm asking why anybody sounds certain before the investigation was even started or finished. Words matter when you wear a badge, family. You can't just say anything when you wear the badge. When you represent yourself as a public servant of authority, words matter. Here's something people need to understand. A sheriff isn't a random dude on Facebook. Because I've heard people say, hey, he just kind of spoke out of context, and he can't speak out of context. You do not have that privilege. You do not have that luxury. I know y'all used to willy-nillying and doing whatever you want to do down there in Mississippi. I know you used to doing whatever you want with little to no consequences. A sheriff is not just some random dude on Facebook. He's the chief law enforcement officer of his county. When he speaks publicly about an active death investigation, those words matter. Imagine you're a witness. You saw something strange on Horn Island. But then you turn on television and hear authorities don't suspect foul play. What might you think? Maybe what I saw wasn't important. Maybe police already figured it out. Maybe I shouldn't get involved. Now imagine the opposite. Authorities say, we don't know what happened. We're investigating every possibility. Anybody who saw Nolan that day, please contact us. Now, which statement is more likely to encourage a witness to come forward? Just asking these questions, that's it. That's why language matters. And to the sheriff's credit, he later did publicly ask for firsthand information. He said investigators needed original documentation and firsthand knowledge rather than people simply repeating things they saw online. So I agree with that completely. That's exactly what investigators should want. But that's also why I wish that cautious language had been used from the beginning. Instead of, well, we don't suspect foul play. How about, we don't currently have any evidence establishing foul play, but we're investigating every possibility. That's Sheriff Willie D. There you go. I'm going to be Sheriff Willie D. I go by my moniker. Sheriff Willie D, we don't currently have any information or evidence that could establish foul play, but we are investigating every possibility. If you got a tip, let me know, man. Call this number. You see me on the street, pull me over, call, give me the information. I need that information, man. Give me the information. See, that's different. That's responsible. That's neutral. That tells the public we haven't decided what happened yet. That makes both sides feel that they have a fair shot at an outcome that they want. Now put yourself in Nolan's parents' shoes. Your child is missing. Then your child is found dead. You don't know what happened. You're probably experiencing the most or the worst moment of your life. And according to your account, within an hour, you're being told authorities believe it was accidental. How would that make you feel? That's what authorities did in the case of T.J. Davis. Told his mom, Sheriff, it was an accident. They did no investigation, no nothing. In fact, the boys who were suspected, well, not boys, but the men, the 4 white male friends who were suspected of being involved in his death were inside of the police car, in the back seat of the police car, laughing, all out laughing and joking, while rescuers were trying to fish his body out of the lake. They was trying to locate his body. Trying to locate his body in Mississippi River in St. Paul, Minnesota. Look the case up, fam. Look it up. T.J. Davis. They just go about, okay, whatever they say happened, that's what happened. You know, the police take these guys aside so frequently and so fast when they give them a story. I wonder would they do the same thing if they gave them a story that, hey, yeah, I killed him. What if they said, yeah, no, he didn't go missing. I killed him. I did it. I wonder what the police said. No, you didn't kill him. You did not kill him. I cannot report that. I need you to say, or maybe they'll lead them like Tatum did. You didn't really do that. You may have thought you did it, but you didn't really do that because you're one of the good ones. You come from good stock. You couldn't have done that. You're a fine boy with a fine reputation, come from good family. You couldn't have done that. So you go home and you think about this and don't talk to nobody. At this stage of the game, fam, I just wouldn't be surprised. All of this becomes a trust issue when the sheriff jumped to conclusions. Once the family loses confidence in the investigation, everything becomes suspicious. Every delay, every redaction, every unanswered question, every unanswered phone call, every unreleased document, every relationship, every phone call, every decision. And rebuilding trust is much harder than establishing it from the beginning. That's why I've said repeatedly, transparency doesn't hurt a legitimate investigation. Transparency. If the investigation is transparent, there's nothing to see here. We're just waiting. Everybody's comfortable. If you're in a business with a person and they're showing you the books, you have no reason to be suspicious. If you're looking at the books daily, you got full access to the books and they're showing you the books. But if you're in a partnership with somebody and they refuse to show you the books, how can you really trust them? You can't. If you want me to trust you, show me the books. If you're not up to something, if you're not misappropriating funds, show me the books. There are obviously things law enforcement cannot release during an active case. Witness statements, grand jury material, certain evidence. I understand that. I get it. But authorities can still explain the process. They can explain what they can. They can correct the misinformation. They can tell the family, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's what we can tell you so far. Here's what we can't tell you quite yet. That's how you build trust. You get the family updates. We're on it. We're on the case. We're on it. Updates. That would also mitigate any damage that the authorities believe, or even that Nolan's so-called friends believe, that might be caused by the family making public statements. Because now the family doesn't have to be on the offense as much because they feel that the authorities are working with them. Now you got people that want the federal government involved. And look at where we are now. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus are calling for an independent federal investigation. Ben Crump is involved. Al Sharpton is involved. The case was taken to the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. National media are covering it. People across the country are asking questions. Think about that progression. This started as a local missing person and death investigation. Now people of Congress, members of Congress, are asking the Justice Department to step in. Why? Because confidence in the local process has been damaged. The people don't trust the locals. And once again, I'm not saying that that proves local authorities did anything corrupt or shady. It doesn't. But perception matters. Perception matters. If millions of people believe the investigation may not be independent or thorough, the government has an interest in demonstrating that it is. And there's one easy way to do that. Bring in independent eyes. Now, having said that, this is a little tricky because these eyes of this government are not necessarily independent, right? This government is MAGA. So this is the same administration that welcomed Kyle Rittenhouse to the White House after he killed 2 U.S. citizens at a protest. This guy has been welcomed with open arms into Trump's orbit. I think they had a fallout since, but yeah, this dude is MAGA. This administration is MAGA. So what are the true chances of getting justice right now? What's the chances? I think it's little to none, y'all. Seriously. I think it's seriously none. So here's where we stand. I don't know exactly what happened to Nolan. Neither do most people arguing the case. That's precisely why we need the investigation. That's precisely why we need transparency. Maybe Sheriff Leadbetter's original instinct turns out to be completely right. Maybe Nolan's death was a tragic accident. Maybe investigators ultimately find evidence that points were somewhere else. I don't know. But that's what bothers me, fam, about hearing no foul play suspected so early. Because if you don't know, say you don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. We're investigating. That's how that should go. We're investigating. That's how they should be talking. We're investigating. There's nothing wrong with saying that. We haven't ruled out anything. Nothing wrong with saying that. We're going where the evidence takes us. That's what Nolan's family deserved from day one. And that's what the public deserves now. I don't want anybody to get railroaded. I don't want anybody to get protected. I don't want anybody convicted on social media. Well, if social media helps to convict them, then yeah, I do want them to get convicted. Full transparency. But here's the thing. Most importantly, I do not want the death of an 18-year-old kid reduced to somebody else's political argument. I want the truth. If Nolan drowned accidentally, prove it. If somebody caused Nolan's death, prove it. If somebody lied, prove it. If somebody told the truth, prove it. But don't ask people to stop asking questions simply because an authority figure gave an opinion before all the evidence was in. A month later, we're still investigating. The case is still active. The cause of death still isn't publicly settled. A grand jury still is ahead. And Nolan's family is still asking the same question they were asking from the beginning. What happened to our son? Until somebody can answer that question with evidence, I'm going to keep on asking questions. Not because I know what happened, but because nobody has convinced me yet of what happened. Y'all tell me what y'all think, fam. Going into the comments. I have a lot of family in Mississippi. My dad wanted to move there. Nope, not ever. I love their land out there, the peace and the domain, but nope. Like to visit. Corey said, nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. Let's see. You are two. Dion Richardson says, I wouldn't trust a grand jury as far as I could throw them. Galatians says, what if Bart is telling the others, if y'all say I done it, I'm blaming y'all. So they have to go along to get along. Okay, so they have to go along to get along. Okay, what's up, BD? I'm cooking. Kimberly, what's up, Kimberly Simmons? Kim says, Warren's transformation is scary and resembling a crackhead. Actively using only a crackhead takes long to become skeleton-like. Appreciate that, China. Sabrina Chapman. Rhonda Dixon, yes, I'm from Mississippi. Vicky, what's up, Vicky Slaughter? At 50, okay. Jaylene says, Warren knows what happened. Yeah, that's who the parents seem to think has the most information. And he has been their spokesperson. Usually the spokesperson knows everything. You got to tell the spokesperson what's going on about the organization, the outfit, the game, the clan, the unit, the team. The spokesperson got to know the ins and outs. But If Warren is their spokesperson, they're in big trouble, because Warren don't know what the hell he's talking about. He do not know how to stay on script. He'll start, and Warren has it appears to me that he has a severe case of ADHD, because he don't know how to stay in one. He don't know how to stay like going down the line of making one point. He oftentimes will start in this direction, and he jump before he can complete a sentence. He'll start a brand new sentence. The boy has a problem with concentrating. This is why any good investigator could trip him up. Oh, he would absolutely fold, because, yeah, he is all over the place. But what say you, fam? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think that justice will be served? Give me a thumbs up. Thumbs down if you say, nah, man, it's Mississippi. To that I say, nah, man, it's America. Hit that like button before you leave, fam. No more talk.